reverse of what you said initially. I think that there is a high demand for Republican and conservative ideology. I don't say Republican, but conservative ideology. There's a high demand.
Yeah.
I didn't expect the magnets.
I'm talking about supply and demand.
Hi, it's Ben. Welcome back to my channel. There's a war going on. It's not a physical war, but it's a war of ideas. Our world is growing increasingly divided in that war. I would like to look at some of the applied economics of the ideas in this series. Today I have an interview with my friend Brandon Tatum. We discuss why the demand for conservative ideas is so low in the black community. So here goes. Brandon, thank you for coming on and having this interview with me today. I'd like you to be able to kind of let the audience get to know you a little bit. So would you like to go ahead and tell your story?
All right, I'll start from when I was very young. So my family dynamic was that, I came from what people would call in modern standards a broken home. My mom and dad were divorced. I don't think I could never remember a time seeing them together and seeing them actually get along, to be quite honest. Mm-hmm. But they were divorced. My dad didn't know his dad until later in life. I guess he left when he was 11 and didn't come back until my dad was like much older. My mom didn't know her dad until later in life. So you could kind of see the projection of kind of how I grew up in the family dynamic that I had. I would say that I had a balanced perspective in life growing up. Mm-hmm. My dad was a firefighter ever since I can remember. Okay. And my mom worked and she did the best she can to take care of us. But I got in a lot of trouble when I was young. I got arrested when I was 8 years old for smoking marijuana in a vacant house.
Oh, wow.
It was me and several of my cousins. But that experience in and of itself kind of projected me into a positive direction.
Yeah.
Giving, the influence that I had from my father. Yeah. And I'll never forget what he said to me after he picked me up from the substation, and he was mad. He came in there, like Hulk Hogan or somebody. He was about to spank us in the cell. So
yeah,
when I get home and I get ready to drive home, my dad tells me, and I wanted to be Michael Jordan. I wanted to play in the NBA. That was my aspirations and goals when I was younger. He told me when we were in the car riding home. Surprisingly enough, we didn't get a spanking, but he told me that if I don't change and I don't act with integrity and do things right, go down this path, I'll never make it to the NBA. And that really changed my life and kind of protected me in a positive direction. So I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, spent the majority of my life there. We went back and forth between mom and dad, we went to public schools, private schools. I inevitably graduated from inner city school, which is Paul Laurence Dunbar High School.
Okay.
And it was very unique. The reason why we went to that school was because they were producing athletes.
Okay.
And, we had 9 Division I players and 4 All-Americans on one team. So
wow.
It was a good school to go to, but it wasn't without the drama. It wasn't without the inner city issues, guys pulling guns on each other in the parking lot. Yeah. People coming from the street in the school fighting. Yeah. A lot of gang violence and stuff like that at the school. So you could kind of get a glimpse of the dynamic on how I grew up. I mean, we lived, like I said, we lived in the suburbs. Sometimes we lived in the inner city. And so I have a very, very balanced background growing up, which led me to play football. And I was an All-American football player in high school.
Wow.
Then I went to play at the University of Arizona.
Okay. So it sounds like you might have had a broken home, but it sounds like your father was involved in your life significantly.
Yeah, that was one unique dynamic, even though I came from what people would consider a broken home. My dad was always there. And we lived both with my mom and dad at separate times. It's just, it's this age, this summer, we end up living with mama, and then we start living with daddy. Mama need to get her stuff together. We start living with, we go back with mama because we want to live with my mama instead of my daddy, Kind of that dynamic. My dad has always been there. I can't think of a moment or a time, even though we didn't always live in the same household, that my dad was consistently there for me. So that was a benefit, although I kind of grew up in a broken home.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had when I say economic, I'm not talking about the money of economics. I'm talking about the supply and demand. It sounds like there was an economic incentive on you to be good, to behave, because you knew your dad was going to come down on you hard if you didn't.
Oh yeah, we get our butts toe up. You know, I don't. You know, I think that's what made me who I am today. You know, I didn't want to get a spanking.
Yeah.
And Daddy wasn't easy on the spankings. You know, he'll get you. You're like, dang, you still whooping me. You know what I'm saying? It's a long time right now. But you learn you don't want to do that again. You know, that's pretty much. Dad didn't have to whoop us that many times, but he did what he had to do to. Yep. And like I said, in that one situation where he could have spanked us, he didn't. He gave us words of wisdom, or at least me words of wisdom that changed my life. And another dynamic to my family structure is that on my mom's side of the family is, you know, a bunch of poverty. And I don't think, you know, graduating high school is a huge deal. You know, 4 of my family members from that side of the family doing the rest of their life in prison.
Wow.
Some of my family members are on drugs, selling drugs. You know, it's such a huge dynamic that I grew up in, like I said. But it made me who I am today. And I thank God that I was able to experience that, because I could see things from multiple angles.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess let's get into the idea of you being kind of a conservative, having the more conservative viewpoint. Like, where did that come from? Was that from your parents, or is that something that you discovered in your own life?
I think like any reasonably developing, functioning adult, later in life, you begin to be more conservative. You know, once you have to pay taxes, once you have to be more aware of your decision-making and how the government impacts you as an individual, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working on a government job, you start to become more conservative. So I think the natural course of action was that I would end up being that way. But I grew up a Democrat, you know, like, and I call myself a passive-aggressive Democrat, because I didn't know why I was a Democrat. It's just that you were Black, growing up in a Black community, you are a Democrat. The Republicans are racist. The Democrats are who support the Black people.
Yeah. So, but I guess, like, why is it that way? Like, what? Obviously, you mentioned the Republicans are racist, and or that's what you heard, that the Democrats support the Black people. Like, do you feel like there's, because I mean, some of the quotes, like, I don't know if you know some of the stuff LBJ said about very, very racial words about
right. They have them voting forever.
Yeah, exactly. And like with that information being public, why do you suppose that hasn't really gone into effect to affect the average person day to day? They still believe that Republicans are racist. Like, I guess walk me through that.
Well, I think what happens is it's a multitude of different things. You know, like the LBJ quote is unconfirmed.
Okay.
Some people say that it's unconfirmed and that it's ambiguous whether or not he said it.
Okay.
But it's still, the concept still remains. And I think the fact that when you have people who are hurting, people who are suffering, who feel disenfranchised, and then somebody like LBJ rolls out this plan to put them on government assistance and get them dependent upon the government, at face value, it seems as if that's the proper recourse, you know, because people need help. What are you going to do? It's not easy enough to say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, go get a job when there's no jobs. So when you develop something like that instantaneous, the instant gratification of saying, okay, we'll give you government assistance, but not understanding the residual effect, I think kind of gets Black people on that ideology, which what he was referring to, that I have these Negroes pretty much voting Democrat for hundreds of years. Yeah. And it gets them in that concept. But now what happens once they're there and they subconsciously realize that it's not benefiting the community anymore, where else are you going to go? Now, the Republicans, historically, from what I've seen, haven't done a really good job at, you know, identifying with the Black community. I mean, I when I was growing up, I never saw any Republican conventions. I never heard anybody that was Republican that would even come to the community. They won't even step foot in the hood. So, you know, you have that lack of connectivity and the lack of care, it seems, because the Democrats are always there. The Democrats are with the celebrities. The Democrats are parading around the Black community. The Democrats typically run some of these Black communities. And so I think that the delusion occurs that way. Okay. And then also here comes the brainwash. Here comes the lack of understanding and knowledge that your father is going to tell you that you're a Democrat, and your father don't even know why you're a Democrat. Yeah. It's just because somebody told him he's a Democrat. And then everybody in the community is a Democrat. And if you ever try to, it's like the crabs in the bucket ideology. Whenever you try to overcome it and you say, well, you know what? I just really think that these policies aren't helping us. Oh, you're a traitor, you're a sellout, you're a coon, you hate your race, and they're going to pull you down or throw you away.
Yeah. Because when I was thinking through this, what we're going to talk about in this interview, I was thinking like, okay, because the demand is low for conservative ideologies, that means the cost is high. From an economic viewpoint, that's what the kind of thing that we assume is as an economist. And so the cost is high. Like, is that just calling names like coon? Is that just those types of things? Is that the cost high, or is there something else dragging back, or what?
I think what it is that, like I said, the perpetuation of this victimhood mentality as well is that, I wasn't born when, black people and white people couldn't drink out of the same water fountain. I have no connectivity to that culture, but still, my family members who were in it continuously remind you that this is what life was. Don't forget that this is the way white people think about you. And I think that victimhood, it gets infiltrated into generations to generations to generations. So when black people start to feel like other black people are now leaving this group that have been sticking together and fighting through racial times and all this other stuff, when people feel that you're trying to move away from that, the first thought is fear and hatred, because they don't understand why you would do that to them, and that outweighs logic, right? I think when you say the supply and demand, like, I think that the perception is that the supply is low, demand is high, or whatever. I think that's what you said. Maybe I got it back. But I think in reality, the demand is, whichever the case may be. Let me make sure I get what you said correct. I think what it is that it's the reverse of what you said initially. I think that there is a high demand for Republican and conservative ideologies. I don't say Republican, but conservative ideologies. There's a high demand. Yeah. Conservative. So, but they don't know it.
Okay.
Entrepreneurship is huge in minority communities. I would even say this, and I know it's a weird example, but it makes sense to me when you look at the concepts. Like, prevalent in the neighborhood that I grew up in when I was graduating high school was a minority community, low income. People sold drugs a lot. A lot of people sold drugs. I knew a lot of people sold drugs. When you look at the concept of drug dealing and drug selling, although it's evil in its application, but the core of the start of it is like conservative and what I would say capitalism. Because I don't know of a person who sells drugs that's willing to say, I'm hustling all night, I'm selling drugs, I'm putting my life in danger, but I'm going to give my drug money to a guy who's sitting at home all day, twiddling his thumbs around watching CNN or something. So nobody wants that. And then name a drug dealer that pays taxes. They don't want to pay taxes. They want the less amount of government involvement as possible, and more of a independent personality, more of an independent start. And so I think that concept alone is capitalism, is conservatism. I think that when people look at it, when the black community start waking up and identifying, well, who are we? Religion. We're the most religious people, in my opinion. Black people are some of the most religious people in the world. We go to church, and charismatic churches, and how in the world do we fall in the modern day liberal ideology when we are so conservative in our core values? Like, we believe in God and the Bible, and that, of course, the Bible is against gay marriage and homosexuality and fornication and abortion and all of these things that we claim to be really connected with. And somebody called me out on that when I was a Democrat, So the things that we're supposed to be connected with, we kind of fall by the wayside. And I think that when the awakening happens and we realize that, like, forget the Republican Democratic Party, forget those things. What do you want in your communities? What do you want to change? Forget Trump, forget all this other stuff. What do you want to change? What policy will help us? And then what candidate is going to implement those policies?
I like the conservative. I like the way you call it conservative, because that's what I've always viewed myself as a conservative. My religion, my faith in Jesus is one of the most important things to me. And those conservative values follow that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you make of this whole Candace Owens thing? I don't know if you followed with the Candace Owens, Kanye West deal. Like, what do you make of it?
I think it's game changing. I think it's revolutionary, to be quite honest. I don't, for 1 second, I don't believe that Kanye West is somehow conservative and he's somehow on the Trump train, and he's somebody that I think the conservative movement would coin as like a spokesperson. Because I think that Kanye is still trying to figure out who he is and what he believes in. But the concept that he implemented that's crucial is the idea of free thinking.
Yeah,
because he's interjecting in people's minds to give them the okay to say, you don't have to be one way. You know, nobody knew. I mean, I'm gonna say nobody knew Candace Owens. Candace Owens had hundreds of thousands of followers like myself. She had more followers than I do. Yeah. But there's a whole demographic of people who never heard of Candace Owens. So when somebody like Kanye mentions her name, and this is the spectrum that I look at, right? You got the spectrum that's like this: 20% of the people at the top, 20% of the people at the bottom, and then you have the 60% of people in the middle who are influential, right? The 20% of people on the top that I look at are people who are like they're waiting for Kanye West to misspell a word on Twitter, and they're ready to throw him away and say he's not a good artist and he's a terrible rapper. And so those people that are just fickle. They're ready to leave the movement no matter what he does. And then you have the people at the very bottom that if Kanye West was to jump off the cliff, they'll jump off the cliff with him. And then you have the 60% in the middle who are the most influential base that he has, and they're like, I love Kanye West, so I'm not going to throw him away. But I'm going to think about what he's saying. Like, maybe I need to check out who Candace Owens is. Like, who is she? And in that demographic of people, that 60% of people are the most influential who can shift. Yep. And this is the problem and the reason why they have to call him crazy. And they have to say everything they can to try to detract from what he's doing. Yeah. And I really think that out of this 60%, you already got the 20% down here that's like, oh, Candace Owens is my woman. I'm with it. And then you got the 60%. I think out of the 60%, you got about 40 to 50% of those people who are now open to convert and spread a message of like, I like what she's saying, to be quite honest. And that demographic includes Black and white people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that is huge, man. I think culturally, and Candace Owens said this on the Rogan show, and I think she hit the nail on the head with it, is that she said that what the Democrats have been able to do, the people on the left have been able to do, is they've been able to infiltrate culture. And see, culture is huge in the Black community. Like, if Jay-Z come, like, think about this. What other culture will celebrate and put a person on a pedestal that shoots a basketball for a living, or a person who raps, who was previously a drug dealer? Yeah, who's previously it's like the Saul and Paul conversion, and it's not even. I wouldn't even say that because I don't think they ever converted over like Paul did. But when Saul was killing, was persecuting the Jews, was persecuting the people that Jesus were associated with, like the apostles. Like he was a part of the persecution of them, and then he transfers over overnight. In the minds of Black people, I feel like that they never can see anything other than him being great. And let me say this, because the analogy probably didn't work well in that situation, but I'm going to say this. In the Black community, there's a ladder, right? I mean, I'm going to say not the Black community. I'm going to say in the minority, poor, urban area communities. There's the standard, right? The world standard is here, and the community standard is here. Yeah. So what happens is you can reach the top of this spectrum, right? Yeah. You can get a felony, you can be arrested, you can have bad character, but you can still reach the pinnacle of the Black community, because if you become a rapper, you can have a felony and been to prison, and you can be a rapper and you have made to the top threshold of the community values. You basketball player, you at the top. You can have bad character, all this other stuff. In the real world, you can't do that. Yeah. If you don't have good character, you're not going to make it. If you get a felony, you're liable to never get to this point. Sure. So with this dynamic, as a person like Jay-Z, these cultural celebrities like Jay-Z and even Kanye West and Tupac and all these other people, they become gods. They become the spokesperson for the Black community. If Jay-Z was to go out right now and say, everybody need to go and do this, 90% of the Black community will do that. Yeah. So the left has, what they've done is they've gotten in the ear of some of these big people like Jay-Z, and they get him influential, and he goes and supports Hillary Clinton, and he supports the Democrats, and so what's happening with Kanye is that Kanye is now saying, open your minds up, don't be foolish, and if they like him or not, they're forced to listen to him. Yeah. And I think that he's not only giving permission to his followers, he's giving permission to other artists to come out and say, you're right, man. need to think for yourself. When that cultural shift happens, then you're going to see the shift in influence and essentially voting.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't it Andrew Breitbart that said politics is downstream from culture or something like that. I've heard that quoted a few times. Yeah. Well, I mean, I essentially agree with you on that. I'm actually, I don't know if you know, but my mom is Latin American and my dad is white. So I was definitely, but I was raised in a small community in northern Indiana called Warsaw. And the thing about Warsaw is it's mostly just, I think there was like 4 or 5 Black people in our high school. One of them was a good friend of mine, but there wasn't a lot of them, and there wasn't a lot of Latin Americans either back then. Things are starting to change a little bit now, but I was raised much more with the mentality of, let's call it the Midwest work ethic. You know, you go to school, you get your education, you value putting in years at a job, that type of mentality. So when a lot of the Latin American people speak, that are from the inner city, and I don't, it's hard for me to identify with that. Does that make sense? Because of the way I was raised and the community I was raised in. I'm not saying that was bad or good. That's just how it was for me, you know? Right. And so with that, I wanted to also ask you this question. So a young person from your community comes to you and says, "Hey, Brandon, what kind of decisions should I make? Here's what I'm facing." What advice would you give them? What direction would you steer them in, I guess? Because that's where it really comes down to is how can we impart the things that we've learned in our life onto the next generation, onto our children, but onto a young man that would come to you and ask you that?
Well, I think it varies. I mean, that's a very broad question because it depends on where he's at. If he's grew up in the inner city, if he's in an inner city community and he has a criminal record, like there's a pathway. If he's grew up like I did, where you may have grown up in a multitude of different atmospheres, but you got great parents and you have the ability to move forward and you have a support system, I would tell them different things. But I think basic concepts from just say a young man who's now becoming, 18 years old, has the decision to go to college or to be on his own, moving out the house, that type of thing. It's a lot of things that I would say, man. I mean, some of it may sound dreamy, but I would tell a young man to write down his goals. Write your goals down. Don't matter how crazy they sound. Write your goals down and dream about them. Dream. Never stop dreaming. Dream big. Not only do you dream, write down goals, but now it's time to apply these things. So first of all, I would tell them to work on the way you speak to people, the way you dress, the way you act, the way you present yourself, because a huge portion of the way people treat you is first impression. So you want, like, if the person is sagging their pants, like I did. When I was going to college, I sagged my pants. I had gold teeth in my mouth. And I got Young Savage tattooed across my stomach right now that I will never be able to take off unless I pay to get it removed, which I won't, because I think it's just a part of my history. So if a young man was like me, I would tell him, man, pull your pants up, because that only works in this atmosphere. When you go over here, you would never get a job with your pants like that. People will perceive you as a thug, although you don't want to be a thug. You just in this cultural identity. So pull your pants up. Something that my pastor told me: dress professional. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yep. And be respectful. And God was a huge concept of mine. So I would tell them, go to church, get a relationship with Christ. Work these independent things and let them lead you in life. And another concept I would talk to them about is finances. Make sure you got good credit. Make sure that you're saving money. Make sure that you have multiple sources of income. I would talk to them about a lot of things like that. Like I said, I'm giving a broad perspective. Absolutely. Because it really just depends on the kid. It depends on if he had a father in the home, or, because I know a lot of young people, it depends on what their pathway is. If they're confused and they don't know where direction to go, join the military. Join the police department. Because when you start to serve your community, you begin to love this country a lot more. You begin to appreciate stuff a lot more. When I would go to work, because I was a police officer for 6 years, when I would go to work, I had to look in the mirror and make a decision to say, I'm okay with not coming home. I'm okay with that. I'm going to go and serve my community, and I may die today for something heroic or something really stupid. But I'm okay with doing that. When you do that year after year after year, you begin to appreciate the structure of this country. You begin to appreciate the police officers. You begin to appreciate service. You begin to honor the flag. So all of these concepts, I think, can be interjected into young people's lives. And another thing I'll tell them, don't ever be a victim. You are not a victim. You're a victor. Nobody can stop you from doing nothing on planet Earth, because this is the thing. I'll tell a young brother, especially if they're black, I will tell them this. I don't believe in white privilege. I don't believe in racism over the concept of Christ privilege, right? If you believe in God, God will transcend your situation. There's not enough of white privilege, racism that can stop you from doing what God is planning for you to do. So as a Christian person, if a person is a Christian, then those concepts bear no record on you. You know what I'm saying? But even beyond that, if the person is not a Christian yet or not a Christian, I would tell them to be quite honest and forthcoming about what is racism and white privilege. And anybody with a brainstem that's connected properly understands that white privilege is no different than any other privilege in the world. There's a such thing as black privilege. There's things that I can do as a black man that white people cannot do. And you know, some may sound minor, but I can rap any song, anywhere, anytime that I want, any modern song, and it says the N-word. I can say the N-word all day long. If you white, you cannot say the N-word. Ask Kendrick Lamar at his last concert. The girl just singing along, and then he want to kick her off the stage because she's just saying what he wrote. So, and then racism, man. And I'm telling you, black people can be frustrated against white people and articulate it. White people cannot be frustrated against black people and articulate it, or they will be called a racist. So everybody have privilege. You know, if you're good looking, you got more privilege than a person who's not as good looking. Look at any anchor that's on any major news network. They're not. Those people are probably not the best journalists. They just reading off a script. They're probably not even that smart. Maybe not. But they look good. So they're going to get a job over somebody who's brilliant, who really don't have a good face for the TV. Maybe they on radio or something. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, so white privilege is no different than any other privilege. And I think we should hold that to be reasonable. There's no overarching think cloud that's over white people's heads or black people's heads that give them some type of advantage that they should feel sorry for. Because it's not, you can't enumerate it. Like, you can't, like, how much white privilege do you actually have? You know, how do you know? You know what I'm saying? Because the white people that I know have no white privilege. They grew up poor. They had to work for everything they have. They in student loan debt. I'm not in student loan debt. My master's degree, I got student loan debt for that, but my bachelor's degree is free. So, you know, so those concepts are saying racism have no burden on us today. Okay. No, racism has nothing to do with us. A man can call me an N-word right now, but he has no power over me. See, back then they call you N-word and beat you up and nobody will do nothing about it. Or they'll call you the N-word and they'll say, you can't come here, N-word, you got to go to the back. Now, they can't do that. They can say what they want to say to you, and they tell you to go to the back of their restaurant because you're black. The restaurant is gone. They can forget about their restaurant. Their restaurant
absolutely
gonna be gone. And you can't discriminate against a person on a job. You know what I'm saying? Equal opportunity. You can't discriminate against a person in almost anything that you do. If you actually do a crime against a person and you're doing it because of their race, it's considered a hate crime. That's an aggravated charge. So racism has no power on us today. We have the power. You know what I'm saying? So those are the concepts that I would interject into young people's lives. You know, majority of the African-American kids that I know, because I grew up in that situation, but I mean, that concept reigns true to anybody, to be honest.
Yeah. And I do agree with you on that. Like, even if somebody doesn't know, isn't a Christian, I would still advise them to get involved in a church, because then you're going to be around other people that have their best interest in mind. And those are great concepts that can lead anyone forward, that can lead anyone up. That's what I believe, at least. I wanted to kind of ask you about two things. When you were mentioning that, I kind of, have you heard of Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, I actually went to his event.
Oh, did you?
Last night? No, the night before last. I actually went to an event he had in Phoenix.
So, cool. Yeah, because when you were talking about kind of mapping out what you wanted to do, thinking about your future, writing things down, that reminded me of a lot of stuff I've heard Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, that's where I got it from. I mean, the concept is still in my mind, but it was reinforced when I went to the event and Jordan Peterson was talking about the projection, writing down your goals, you know, and how important that is. Like, they did research on students at universities that will write down their goals and stuff, and they will be more likely to graduate and make better grades and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Did you see the debate between him and Michael Dyson?
I saw a little bit of it, man. I saw a little bit of it, you know, because the whole thing, I tried to just find when he was going against Michael Eric Dyson, I didn't really know the other two people, and I didn't think that they were as
polarizing.
They were as intelligent. Like Michael Eric Dyson is brilliant. He just, he uses it the wrong way, in my opinion. I
agree.
You may disagree. The guy is brilliant. He knows every word in the dictionary, which it sounds ridiculous because he tries to do that to make his argument sound more important than what it really is. I mean, he says that he's so smart, he's stupid sometimes, so. Yeah. But I saw a little bit of it, and I'm going to be honest, man. I don't think that Jordan Peterson won some of those arguments because he didn't know how to argue on the same level as Michael Eric Dyson.
Exactly.
He used another approach that to the middle ground person made it sound like he didn't have a comeback. Yeah, but his brain is not like Michael Eric Dyson.
Yeah, he doesn't. To beat somebody like Michael Eric Dyson, you have to be able to hit back. And Jordan Peterson, with his mentality, he doesn't believe in hitting back like that.
And he's got to be able to hit back culturally too. Like Michael Eric Dyson, if you watch him, he used slang.
Yep.
And he tries to be modern. And to be honest, Jordan Peterson don't have that charisma.
Yep.
So it's kind of hard when somebody with the charisma like Michael Eric Dyson gets to saying all this and being all savvy, kind of like Barack Obama. He gets savvy and he gets the argument going in the emotional realm where people are like, oh, no, that's pretty cool. Like, dang, he's saying that. But he's also identifying with young people and he's getting his argument built up, even though he's not saying anything to the intellect. Yep. Jordan Peterson is like, this is the dumbest argument ever. But to the regular everyday person, it sounds really good. And then Jordan Peterson comes back and he don't fight fire with fire. Because remember, he's called Jordan Peterson like an old, grumpy white man or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he could have called him an old, ignorant black man. Yep. I mean, that's what he should have said, but I don't think he wants to go down the rabbit hole. And it's I think
so too, yeah.
But sometimes you do, like, which is another benefit about being black. Because if I was arguing with Michael Eric Dyson, I could call him all kind of stuff. I could call him an ignorant black man. I could say he on the plantation and everything. And at the end of the interview, people would just be mad at me. With him, he may lose deals and stuff because people will chop it up and call him a racist.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I also wanted to ask you about values. Okay, we were talking a lot about values when you were mentioning. So one of the things that is another popular is the idea of cultural appropriation, that some values are a certain culture's values and some values are another culture's values. But I feel like as a Christian, and you might have already kind of answered this question a little bit, there's values that transcend those types of things. Is that the direction that you would go in with somebody if they just came to you and started talking about cultural appropriation stuff?
Yeah. I mean, you sit down with any human being. The problem with cultural appropriation and the way some people isolate themselves is because they've never been a part of other groups, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up in an all-black neighborhood. So every issue, every problem, we feel like is unique to just black people, right?
Yeah.
But when I became a police officer and I worked in a primarily white and Hispanic neighborhood, I realized the same issues that they dealt with over here, they dealt with over here in the white neighborhood. Yeah. The trailer park is the same thing as the projects. It's just white people, black people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And meth is the same thing as crack cocaine. It's just black people smoke crack, white people smoke meth typically in these low income areas.
Yeah.
White kids in the trailer parks, white kids in low income areas, they don't have a dad either. They're in group homes and everything, just like black kids. So people don't understand because they've never been interjected into the other culture. So what I think is amazing about the Bible is because spirituality and God and the foresight that Jesus portrayed when he walked on earth transcends every culture. It transcends every dispensation of time because the same words that can be spoken 2,000 years ago, you can apply today and 2,000 years later if we even make it that far. Yeah. So I would tell people basic concepts. Basic concept is treat people the way you want to be treated. I think everybody wants that.
Yeah.
The concept of having integrity, which means doing the right thing when nobody's watching. Like those principles and concepts transcends who you are, where you at, poor, rich. And I think that another thing that I tell people as far as values is that, your values that you hold in poverty will be the same values that you hold when you become rich. If you're a bad person poor, you're going to be a bad person rich. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. If you are, if you can't appreciate the basic necessities of life when you don't have a lot, when you go and check the check, you can't appreciate your family. You can't appreciate breathing in God's air. You can't appreciate the fact that you're not in a third world country.
Yep.
Then you're going to be unappreciative no matter what. And when you look at that concept, you see that no matter if you black or white, if you can't appreciate, you won't appreciate if you were white either, with the white privilege that you have or whatever people say. Like, you won't appreciate that if you can't appreciate the concepts in general. So my whole thing is Christ first. You know, I'm not the type of person to do this. This is what I don't do. And I'm like a chameleon, right? Depending on the circumstances and situations I'm in, I may use different words and verbiage. I'm not going to quote the Bible if I'm talking to a Muslim. I'm not. They may not even believe the Bible. Or if I'm talking to a Mormon, it's like a person quoting the Book of Mormon to me. It's like I only read a few parts of it. For me, honestly, to discredit it, to be honest. But I've also looked at it to see if there's a validity to it as well. But most of what I read is in contrast. So I'm not going to talk about, but I may, if I'm talking to somebody about religion, I'm talking to a Mormon, I may not quote the Bible, but I may quote the Book of Mormon, or I may quote Joseph Smith. You know what I'm saying? So you got to be malleable in the way you discuss things. But what I'm saying, to get back to the point, is that, but when I'm talking to people who are not Christians, I can still give them Christian concepts without saying Romans or Philippians, you know what I'm saying? Without saying Christ, without saying God, I can still give them the same amount of concepts in a way that they can receive it without being turned off by religious rhetoric. Because but this is the thing. This is what I think all Christians should do. You should be malleable. The church is not the building. The church is the people. So you should be able to be on the police department and show Christ without ever saying anything. You don't have to tell. You should never tell anybody. I'm saying you shouldn't have to tell people that you're a Christian. You shouldn't have to tell people you're saved. They should see it. Because you love people enough and you're genuine to people. Like people used to ask me all the time because I couldn't talk about religion on my job in uniform. But people used to be like, Brandon, why you don't curse? Like, I ain't never, a cop that don't curse. Like, why do you not curse? And I'm like, it opens the opportunity for me to say, well, okay, this is the concept of how I feel about cursing. And they like, dude, how are you so calm with people? And are you so patient, dude? Like, I don't understand your patience. And I tell them, well, you know what I'm saying? If they want to know, I'll talk to them about it. But the first thing they see is not my Bible. The first thing they see is not the fact I go to church. They see the actions. And then they start to really see it, and then they become curious about what it is behind it.
Yeah. It reminds me of the old Francis Assisi quote. He said, I've decided to witness at all times, and if necessary, use words or something like that. I'm probably butchering it horribly, but
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're saying. I heard it before too. So
yeah. So I guess the last thing I wanted to brush over with you was this kind of new definition of racism, because somebody told me once that it was impossible for someone to be racist against me because I'm a white male. And they don't know that I'm actually half Latino, but they said because of my privilege, it's impossible for somebody to be racist against me. Like, what do you think about that whole concept? Where did it come from? And because I've always believed in, if you're treating somebody differently because of their race, then that's racism. But
the fundamental definition and the application of that definition is the fact that you're doing something against somebody primarily on race, it is racism. Now, the concept that they teach you in college, because in college I studied African-American studies and I also studied the study of whiteness. They had a study of whiteness and blackness in college, right?
Interesting, yeah.
So I took the study of whiteness first. I never made it to the study of blackness. But there's the concept behind it. Some legitimacy to it. Some of it is obviously fluff. But within that concept, they have the idea that racism can only be applied to a group that can oppress the other group. So they're saying that like black people are the minority, they can never completely create policy, become the president, and all these other things. So they can't inflict a systematic racism against another population of people. The concept really holds no weight to me. When I was in college, it made sense, but it holds no weight because in isolated situations, people have control over other people anyway. Like if I was running a business and I decided I wasn't going to hire people because they're white, I'm essentially inflicting racial hierarchy over somebody else, which is racism. You know, black people are just as racist or even more racist than white people are. Like, I think people only think that white people can be racist. Like, this is the concept that I grew up in. When I was growing up, you cannot bring a white girl home. Like, you cannot date a white girl. Now, my parents didn't tell me this, but culturally, black guys didn't date white women, or you're a sellout. So none of us dated white women. We may like them, we may look at them. It was a shunned. I'm telling you, you will lose your black card. Now, that sounds normal. Like, I could say that on national TV, and people be like, oh, I understand that. Let a white person say that you can't bring a black man home to, a black person home. We don't date black people in our community. Oh my God, it's the most racist thing in the world. But the application goes both ways. And I think that, anybody with a brain that's not trying to be manipulative understands that racism, the concept of racism can be applied to anybody, anywhere. You even have colorism, which people don't talk about. That's within races. Like black people have colorism issues within the black culture.
I see.
So, I think that what we should do is look at the basic concept and say, don't be mean to other people. Don't be prejudiced against other people. And people forget that they don't understand the difference between racism and prejudice, too.
Yeah.
Those are two different concepts. And I think that a lot of people mesh them out for political expedience and convenience. They really don't care the effect that it actually has. Therefore, right now, anything you do as a white man against a black person, even if you're mixed, you're biracial.
Yeah.
But they don't count you like biracial. Anything you do because they perceive you to be white, anything you do against a black person is racist. Like if you were to go on a job and you say, like Starbucks, for instance, you can't even call the police on people who are like violating your policies.
Yeah.
If you call the police on them, you call police on white people all you want. You call the police on 2 black people in the store. Although there's multiple black people in the store already, you just so happen to call on these 2 that's probably being disruptive to a certain degree. And they're probably mouthing off. You know how it goes. And you call the police on them. Somehow you're racist. Somehow you lose your job and they got to go through sensitivity training.
Yeah.
That's only for political expedience because in reality, there's no concrete proof that was racism.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? But the word is now used so much. It's like somebody crying wolf, They call racism so much that real racism we don't even know. And we can't even differentiate. Therefore, we can never change it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. See, what had happened was I was in a foreign country and a woman, she ran into me. She rear-ended me, and the police officer, when they arrived, they said that since I was white, the accident was my fault because I have money. So I said, well, maybe that's racism. And somebody told me that's not racism because you're privileged and it doesn't affect you like it would affect somebody of a minority race. And I just maybe if you would have said to me, well, maybe you shouldn't be as sad about it, then I would have said, well, that makes sense. But to say that it's not racism, it didn't gel well with what I was, I don't know. It didn't make sense to me.
No, I'm with you 100%. Because then you're going from, see that what the concept that they were describing is less about racism and more about classism.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you have more money, then that accident don't affect you as much as somebody who's poor that they crash their car, they can't afford to pay the deductible on insurance.
Yeah.
They don't have any recourse. But if you make a lot of money, you man, the deductible is nothing. I can pay a little $500,000 deductible, get my car fixed. I actually got 2 cars, so I could drive the other car. So see, that's not racism. That's considered to be classism, which is not it's not your fault that you work hard and get what you got and somebody else didn't make bad decisions. So
yeah.
But but see, what I'm saying is that this is how they do it. It's easier to project racism, but it's not really common sense because you technically you are not white. You're biracial.
Yeah.
My son is biracial, and people want to call him white. Black. I'm like, he's not black. He's not white. He's biracial. You need to differentiate because what privilege do he have? Because if you see, the convenience of it is to say he's black. That means he don't have privilege. That means that a white person has privilege over him, which perpetuates the negative victimhood mentality. But in reality, half of his family is white, half his family is black. So technically, he has white privilege. But that don't work with their narrative.
Sure.
And like I say, because of the way the system works and the way court work, and because me and his mom is not married, she gets to keep him more than I do. And so technically he lives more with his white family than he do with his black family.
Sure.
And so that concept, when we take the Thomas Sowell approach, it makes sense. When we take the emotional approach, they gotta paint my son to be black so that they can perpetuate this narrative so they can get him to vote as a black man instead of getting him to vote as a biracial child. And to be honest, I could care less. My son, I'm glad he got both sides because he get a plethora of exposure and experience. But I don't want him to be considered black. I don't want him to be painted in a corner. And because then he now has absolved all the black issues. For instance, like slavery. Yep. Like it's like they want him to take the full burden of slavery. Like, oh, you're black, your ancestors. No. Your ancestors are white too. And your ancestors are black. So there's a possibility, which is very rare given the statistical data, there's a possibility that this side of your family this side of your family enslaved this side of your family. Very possibility.
Yeah, that's interesting that you would point that out. Yeah.
And there's also a possibility that this part of your family moved here, the white side, moved here after slavery, and this side of your family owned slaves. Because black people did own slaves in the South. They did. Hundreds of black people owned thousands of slaves. Yeah. And so if you look at it from the Thomas Sowell's brain, it's the logical, like basic understanding of reality. You're being forced to like break up these norms.
Sure.
To me, I think it's worth exploring. To some people, they will never get a paycheck again if they don't promote hatred and division, you know? So
Yep. I love that you brought up Thomas Sowell. You know, I mentioned him.
I got his book, Discrimination and Disparities, and I'm reading it now, and I'm like, I'm on like chapter 1 or 2, and I already got a new brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, so much information and so much tangible evidence and articulation to what you already think is going on. You're like, I don't really think the world is that racist because everyday life people get along just fine. And then he gives the statistical data and the concepts around it. And you're like, there you go. I mean, it's proven. This is proof now. This is not just emotions, you know? Yeah.
One of the things on my bucket list is I want to meet Thomas Sowell, but he's so private about his life and he's so hard to get in touch with. I think maybe that might not be able to check that one off, you know?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's true because he's so up in age and like he don't even take speaking engagements because I'm the director of, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm the director of urban engagement with Turning Point USA. I obviously work with Candace.
Okay. I did not know that. I read through your profile a little bit. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't think I put it in my bio.
Okay.
I got to update my bio, but I'm the director of urban engagement. I took over Candace Owens' position. She's now the communications director. So me and her work together. So
awesome. Yeah.
So, but with that being said, I'm directing a conference in December. I mean, not in December, in October, late October. It's going to be in DC. It's called the Young Black Leadership Summit. So I'm the director. I pick all the speakers. So with that being said, I tried to get Thomas Sowell, but he no longer accepts speaking engagements. So I'm gonna go with Larry Elder.
Elder's good, yeah.
Elder's like I think that Larry Elder is like the next generation of Thomas Sowell. Like I think Thomas Sowell passed the mantle down to like Larry Elder, in my opinion, because Larry Elder pulls a lot from Thomas Sowell, but he got a little more charisma and he's a little more modern. You know what I'm saying? His generation is a little more like ours.
Now that's someone who could trade punches with Michael Eric Dyson.
Oh, he will punch out Michael Eric Dyson. I don't know if it'll be a trade. It'll be like Muhammad Ali. He'll just be
versus me, maybe. Yeah.
It'll be like this. The hardest hitting. It's like you have Michael Eric Dyson. You have Larry Elder. You say this is a hard hitting thing, and I think that it would be 2 hits, right? I think Larry Elder will hit Michael Eric Dyson, and Michael Eric Dyson hit the ground, and that'll be it. You know, in the concept of the arguments, because you see what Larry Elder did to Ruben.
Yep.
He got on that show and he just obliterated Ruben. And Ruben now has changed his tone and he's now more of a libertarian. Is what he's call it. And I'm like, Larry Elder is like Thomas Sowell 2.0 in my opinion. You know, he's younger. Like Thomas Sowell is like in his 70s, I think.
No,
like
80, Larry Elder. 80? No, Thomas Sowell's 85.
85. So I saw a video when he was in his 70s. You know what I'm saying? I saw like a video of him and he was in his 70s. So that was an older video. But, you know, he's almost 90-some years old. Yeah. Larry Elder probably is 60, 50.
I'm guessing he's probably in his 50s because he's got children that are about my age, like in their 20s to 30s.
Yeah, so he probably is 50. My dad is in his 50s. So
okay.
In his 50s. Maybe depending on when he had kids, he could be in his 50s, late 50s or early 50s. But still, like, imagine when he's 85, you know, he's going to be writing all these books. He's already written a few. So I love these guys. They're very inspirational and people need to listen to them. Like Larry Elder, if somebody would listen to Larry Elder for 30 minutes,
Yep.
Anybody with an open mind,
Yep.
they will change in some form or fashion, you know?
Yeah. So I guess in closing, how can the people watching get in touch with you? How can they connect with you?
So there's multiple ways to connect depending on your convenience. Today,
Okay.
I'm getting ready. I have an app.
Okay.
It's just going to be labeled Brandon Tatum. I'll give details about this on my website because we still have to figure out the approval on Apple and Droid devices. But I'll have an app that will be a huge way to get all my video content outside of the algorithm frustration between Facebook and YouTube and all of the above.
Sure.
But also people can, if you got questions about Turning Point USA, the Young Black Leadership Summit, email me at brandon.tatum. Brandon.tatum at tpusa.com. So it's brandon.tatum at tpusa.com. If you email me there about issues concerning Turning Point USA, speaking engagements and stuff that's associated with that, that's the way to email me. My general email is, I gotta change it, man. It's motivational speaker. I'm not gonna get it. That's too long because this is what you got to do. Okay, go onto my website. In addition to that, go onto my website. It's motivationalspeakerbtatum.com.
Okay.
It's too long. We're going to fix the URL as soon as possible. But motivationalspeakerbtatum.com. Motivationalspeakerbtatum.com. You go in there. There's a button that says contact me.
Okay.
So if outside of Turning Point USA, if you got other inquiries about me speaking or something outside of what we do for Turning Point USA, then just go to my website and put contact me. It'll send it to an email that I have set up specifically for that website, and then I'll get back to people as soon as possible.
Sure.
Other than that, you can visit my social media.
Okay.
Facebook,
I'm going to put the link. I'm going to put the link after I post the video. I'm going to put all your links in the description box below. So that's good. But I wanted to make sure that you were able to get out your advertisement for Turning Point USA for the, what did you call it? The Young Black Leadership Summit?
Yeah, it's YBLS. It's YBLS 2018. So if anybody that's watching this that want to apply, obviously, it's a Black Leadership Summit.
Okay.
So if you want to apply and you're between the age of 18 and I'm gonna scoot the age up to about 28, you can apply at tpusa.com /YBLS, which is for Young Black Leadership Summit 2018. So it'd be tpusa.com /YBLS 2018. If you get that link, you click on it. I'll give you that link too. They can click on it and apply. Anybody between the age of 18 and 28, if you apply and you get accepted, all expenses paid, you will be flown out to the event and taken care of. Anybody above the age can still purchase tickets to be there as an adult. You can come in as well. So I have a video on my YouTube channel describing a lot of it. I'm going to make more videos as we get closer. So people, if they're still curious, they can either email me or watch the videos that I put out on that.
Excellent. Okay. And thanks for agreeing to this interview and kind of getting to know you a little bit. And I'll the video will be posted soon and I'll give you a link to it. So